I just wanted to do a quick one. I've been talking to a lot of people, and I've been wanting to speak on what I or who I deem neo-revolutionaries. I had the benefit and the pleasure of watching a documentary on PBS about a week ago, and it was called The Black Panthers, Vanguard of the Revolution. And I was I appreciated the filmmaker and his approach, and I really, really liked that the documentary did a great job of presenting an arc, and it showed a beginning, and it showed where it began, and the people, the original, some of the original people. It did a thorough job of talking about everybody, but it did a great job of introducing you to the beginning of what the movement was. And as the documentary went, played through, and as we began to watch, you really got an opportunity to see, where it went, where it began, what it was, what it eventually evolved into, and then what was left of it. There was a lot of interesting information, things that I may have heard, but there was a lot of information that I did not know. When I think about them, I thought about black berets, afros, rifles, shotguns, that that aesthetic of menacing and I don't want to say aggressive, but I will say that it just had a powerful. It was a visual spectacle to be seen. And as I began to learn and just really understand, you know, what the mission, the 10-point mission was, and how J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI just classified them a hate group, and just really went out and put out all the stops to just systematically just divide and conquer. And unfortunately, they did a great job of creating an environment and creating mistruths that was the fodder for the fire that burned and kind of consumed a good portion of this party. Um, when I'm talking neo-revolutionaries or pseudo-revolutionaries, I'm speaking about, and it's a small subgroup of individuals that I'll come in contact with, um, that have adopted the vocabulary of past revolutionaries, like true revolutionary people. Uh, I was watching a YouTube video, and she mentioned, Nat Turner. She mentioned Harriet Tubman. She mentioned people that were actually, focal points of like real revolution, where it just the situation, the circumstances, the injustice, everything just it just created the perfect moment for someone to just rise, people to rise up and say we need to do something differently. It was something bigger than themselves. It was something that was for the greater good of many people, and it wasn't a self-serving um, opportunity to bloviate, it wasn't a chance for someone to go off on the metaphysical and confuse people, or it wasn't a chance to you know speak about how much more conscious or how much woke they are. One of the things, or one of the criticisms I have about a movement, and this is just a personal opinion, um, is that it's a movement. It is a collective idea of people that decide there's something that they want to be a part of, and together they get the movement. But eventually, like all things, and you can equate, this is properties of matter and inertia, whatever. If an object is at rest, it will remain at rest. And if an object is in motion, it will remain in motion unless there's a force that either stops the motion or changes it, changes the flow of whatever it is it was going. So eventually, all movements, have some type or a moment where it stops, it ends, it's not the movement anymore. Um, we're so caught up on sound bites and we're so caught up on something clever that we can put a hashtag in front of, something that we can, we can tweet and we can get on Instagram and Snapchat and, it's so cool and it's so, in vogue to pick these, grammatically incorrect terms to speak for the the lamentations of a people, or to speak for the injustice, or to speak for, something that the quote unquote hashtag movement is supposed to address. So the revolutionaries, or the neo pseudo revolutionaries that I'm speaking of, these are not the people that saw real discrepancy and real inequality. I'm not speaking about these people that actually see a difference and they see a need that is greater than themselves, where they will have to sacrifice and give up of themselves for the greater good. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those revolutionaries where they're so caught up in their rhetoric and they are seduced by their vernacular. They become intoxicated by the audible nature of their approach. You could say pontificate, you could say bloviate, you could say, you know, any permutation of someone that's just speaking because they delight in what they're saying. It's a special level of narcissism at play here. So, and many times, and I'm saying this is not people that are conscious or people that are, you know, hip to the game, or people that have had, life changing moments that they've decided they need to be a champion for something. I'm talking about those people that spend more time bragging about how much more enlightened they are than everyone else. I'm talking about those people that see the need to point out that everybody else is lost but them. You understand what I mean? These are the people that sit around and they just speak with a king's air. That's the way they speak. And for the susceptible, for the ones who truly don't have a grasp or really don't have an identity, they might gravitate to that, or they might fall victim to the verbiage, and they might fall victim to what's being said and feel that they're not doing enough, and that they're not part of the revolution. They're not fighting. And I'll just say this: just watch these individuals. Look at, listen to them, but then look at their actions. Look at the way they live their life. If they're telling you that you need to be a model of discipline and you need to adopt militant, be a militant individual and structure and things of that nature, yet they lack structure in their own lives, that might be a red flag. Or if they're constantly telling you that everything you know is wrong, 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 and that everything that they've read and everything that they've come across is right, 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 that right there might be a red flag, because you may have information for somebody that they may need that can help elevate them, but what you'll never do is reach anybody, because you refute and you shoot down any chance that they had to validate that they are capable of receiving anything from you. So sometimes there needs to be a give and take. Sometimes you have to swallow your ego and your pride to allow that individual to feel comfortable enough to say, you know what, I was able to share what I had within myself, and let them come to the realization that A, it may not necessarily be the truth, or B, there could be a better truth. But it's not your obligation, it's not your prerogative to instantly come and say, well, you're wrong, and you're wrong because I've got 50 million metaphysical reasons why you're wrong, and you should just listen to what I'm saying. You'll never reach anybody like that. And the last time I checked, these pseudo neo revolutionaries, they're not reaching anybody. They're not getting the message out there. If they really wanted to know the truth, the people sit there and they listen, not listening until they shut up or until they stop talking at that particular time, and they go on about their lives. You're so concerned with showing how much more enlightened and above you are everybody else. And you know what the ironic part about it is? You are all by yourself because nobody is going to want to follow that. Nobody is feeling liberated by that. The real revolutionaries didn't have time to talk about how great they were. They didn't have time to talk about how much more on a physical mental plane or mental plane they were, and how much more, their thoughts are just weighted because they memorized a couple of quotes that they saw in a book. You have to meet people where they are and give them an opportunity to grow. Just like we have different kinds of plants and grass and trees, and they all grow at different ways, and they grow at different times, and they grow at different speeds, and the grass can only grow this high, and the shrubs can only grow this high, and then you got some trees that can grow maybe kind of this high, and then you got California redwoods and grow really, really tall. But they all have one thing in common: they all grow. And you can't refute and you can't disparage someone that has a capacity at that particular time to grow to that level. And I feel like rather than taking into account the landscape, the social landscape, the political landscape, and looking at the need of the people, and looking at the need of the people that are most in need, they may not be as sophisticated as you may be. They may not have the benefit of, having read this individual or this conspiracy book or this seminar or this conference, but they have the benefit of you. You need to not overwhelm the flame and blow it out. You need not to try to water the plant with a gallon of water and drown it to death. You need to show your maturity, because if you have the truth is the truth. It doesn't change. If it's real truth, it isn't going to change just because somebody agrees with you or not. They can disagree with you, but at some point they will come to a realization that you were telling the truth, and then you have an ally. You've helped someone grow. But if you, at the moment that they say something, and you just can't wait to shoot them down and laugh at their idiocy or their ignorance of that fact or what it is that you're trying to share, because you want to sound so much more than who you are, you haven't done anything. You haven't created any revolution. You haven't fortified any ranks. You haven't done anything but alienate the very populace or the very target audience of people that you were trying to help reach. So is it revolution, or is it just that you're a narcissistic jerk that just feeds on the inadequacy or perceived inadequacy and perceived inferior feelings of the individuals that are drawn to you because you're exuding confidence? Neo-revolutionaries, let me tell you something. We have the benefit of history, and we have had the benefit of recorded record and archived information. So we know what a real revolution is. We know what real struggle is. We can see and have seen some real progress in some of these situations. So when you come around and you have your mask on and you dressed up and you're preening like a peacock so that everybody can admire your feathers, congratulations. Because people are still thirsting and still hungering and still lacking for true direction and true leadership. And you haven't done anything. The only thing you've done is take the light off the insecurities that rest within you. And you created a spotlight to shine them on other people. Because once you put the light on yourself, we see that there's nothing of value or nothing of substance that's really holding you up. But